Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, we're going to be just doing a little ramble today, and we're going to be talking about club football. Something we haven't discussed for a little while now. Of course, the Euros are on, as is the Copa America, and we're all obsessed with the international tournament fever, as we should be. That's where most of our attention has gone, as the club football is in the off-season right now. But of course, the transfer window is open, and clubs have been making moves whilst the Euros has happened. And since I've last spoken about club football, there's actually been quite a bit that has happened across Europe. So I wanted to just give my thoughts on some of the key moves, some of the key talking points, transfers that have occurred, that could occur in the coming weeks in club football, and give us a little bit of a break. Maybe if you're feeling, a bit Euro fevered out, you've watched so much Euros, and certainly I'm feeling a bit like that. I've watched pretty much, I think I have watched every single game, which is a lot. So this is nice just to sit back, relax, and just talk a little bit about something else. Maybe your team didn't do quite well, especially you, if you're an England fan, didn't do quite well. So take your mind off that, and let's talk a little bit about club football. Now, unfortunately, my mind's not going to be cool and calm and collected for that long, because, as always, my club, Chelsea, never give me a break. I was really, really hoping that I didn't have to speak about Chelsea until, the start of the season, because, pretty much every time in the existence of this channel, every time I speak about Chelsea, it's something negative. And unfortunately, that's happened quite a bit. And unfortunately, it's going to happen again, because we've been very, very busy in the transfer window so far, which is something I did not want to do, because we have been busy in the last 100 transfer windows since this new ownership has taken ownership, and I felt that this summer window I wanted us to just have a little bit of a calm one, get a couple additions, key areas, and get rid of some of the deadwood in the squad. Unfortunately, that's not been the case. So we have made some signings already. We have unfortunately continued with this absolutely ludicrous model where anybody who is a teenager and can kick a football, we will sign for over £20 million. Because we have signed Esteval Willian, who, to be fair, this is one where I'm not completely angry about, because he is he's one of those where a lot of the big clubs like the Real Madrid and stuff were interested in him, so maybe there is something about him. But either way, I'm numb to this whole hype train about youngsters now, because the amount of youngsters we've signed, honestly, I couldn't care less. If a player's not coming in now to immediately come into the side and help us and improve the team, I don't want to hear about it, to be honest. list. Unfortunately for Chelsea owners, for Chelsea directors of football do, because we've signed this guy, we've signed Amari Kellyman, which, don't get me started on that, that's just a PSR move, which we'll talk about later. We also look like we're going to sign this Argentinian, like I think a centre-back from Boca Juniors. I mean, how many? We got that Mark Gui guy from Barcelona. How many of these youngsters are we going to sign? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, we've already got about 30. I don't think they realise that if you have a load of youngsters, let's say you have two really promising 19-year-old right wingers. If you sign a third promising right winger, they're just going to block themselves. Youngsters block youngsters, right? That third right winger is not going to get up after the first team. I don't think they understand that. So yeah, it's just ludicrous. But anyway, we have made or it looks like as of recording, we have made a actual signing to the first team. Well, actually, we already did. We got Tosin Adrabio on a free transfer, which I don't mind. That's one of those where on a free, he'll be a depth option. That's perfectly fine, probably on fairly low wages as well. We needed some cover at centre-back, I don't mind that. That's an astute signing, for once. But Kieran Dewsbury-Hall looks like he's on his way to Chelsea, and this is one where I don't understand the reasoning behind this, quite frankly. We do not need him. We really, really don't. We have plenty of players who can play in that position. He plays as either centre mid or more attacking mid. And we have so many guys in that role. If he's a centre mid, we got Caicedo, we got Enzo, we got Lavia, we got Andre Santos there, we got Conor Gallagher there, we got Leslie Chukwu there. If he's attacking mid, we've got Carney Chukwemeka there, we've got Nkunku there, we've got Cole Palmer who can play there. We've got someone else I'm missing, I can't quite remember, but we have options there. So why? So where is he going to play? That's my question. And if he's going to start, then who's getting sold? Because someone has to leave. And we spent 30 million on him. That's quite a lot. Now, I don't actually have a problem with Dewsbury-Hall, the player, because actually, when he played Chelsea in the FA Cup, I was really, really impressed with him. Like, he's a good player. He's a really, really good player. It's just, I don't think he's quite at the level for Chelsea right now, and I also don't think he's needed. Now, obviously, there is that element of Maresca. He likes him. Obviously, they played together last season, so Maresca knows him well. Someone who suits Maresca's system, that's great. But then this also makes me weird, because presumably they've signed him for Enzo Maresca. But then if the whole idea was that Maresca doesn't really get a say in the transfers, he's the head coach, the directors of football are the ones signing the players, because that's what happened with Poch, you know. Poch asked for players, Poch asked for experience, he didn't get it. So how comes Maresca asked for players, he asked for Dewsbury-Hall and he gets it? I don't understand it, but yeah, look, Dewsbury-Hall is a good player, maybe he'll do well for us, but I just think that we need it. There's other areas we need to address before that, right? Like, we need another striker, we need somebody who can compete with Jackson before we need a Dewsbury-Hall. So I don't know, a pretty underwhelming signing and a weird one. We've also got quite a few sales done as well. Ian Martin gone, which I don't mind. We got decent money for him. It was kind of expected he was going to leave. Amari Hutchinson has also left Ipswich, which is a really interesting one. I did not realise that Ipswich has a real intent signing from them, and it shows that they're willing to spend the cash in the Prem, because they bought for a hefty fee. It was like 26 million, which is pretty big for Ipswich. But I don't mind that sale, because he didn't even play a minute for us, I'm pretty sure, and we made a decent amount of profit. That's a good fee for a player there, so I don't mind that. But then, you know, as players who we're still going to sell, as I said, if Dewsbury-Hall comes in, I think this probably smells the end for Conor Gallagher, because, pure profit and all of that. But yeah, we still have a lot of other players to sell, like Lukaku and stuff. I don't know where he's going to go, if we're even going to be able to sell him, but yeah, let's just move on from Chelsea, because, you know, it's depressing to talk about as a Chelsea fan. Where I think we'll move to Bayern, because Bayern have made some moves as well. They've been pretty active. Obviously, Vincent Kompany is their manager now, which is pretty mad, but he's been backed quite a bit here. So they have signed Michael Elise already, which is an absolutely incredible signing, both for Elise and for Bayern. From a Bayern perspective, they get a young, up-and-coming, but also ready-made talent on the wing who's going to add creativity, who's going to add goals to their system, and is a really, really good player. They needed that depth on the wing as well, with Coman always getting injured. You know, Sane's form is very hit and miss at points. Same with Gnabry, so Elise in there just adds more firepower to the wings. From Elise's perspective, you know, he had many offers on the table. The likes of Chelsea, Man United were very interested in him. At one point it looked like he was going Chelsea. But I think he's made the perfect decision to join Bayern. Because from his perspective, we know he suffers a lot with injuries. He can go to Bayern, and if he gets injured for a little bit, misses a bit of a season, it's not the end of the world. He's not going to come in and he's not going to be rushed back and be asked to be the most important player in the team, which he may have done for Man United or Chelsea. If he gets injured, it's fine. Take your time, ease back. We've got options. We've got Coman, we've got Sane, we've got Gnabry, who will fill in, and also it gives him time. There's not going to be this huge pressure on him, I believe, to perform because of those options, as I said. He can get rotated if it takes a little while for him to adapt to the system, to life in Munich. It's fine. They can play other players and he can go on the bench for a little bit. So I think there's a really good move for him. And if he does hit it off, he will get the game time. We're playing for a team who are going to be competing for titles. So yeah, I really like this move. Smart addition from Bayern, good fee, good move personally for him. Palace got a decent fee for him. I think it was inevitable they were going to lose him or Eze. Hopefully they can keep hold of Eze, but even then, you know, they've already replaced him with, I think it's like Chadi Riyad or something, who looks promising. But they've also signed, I think, Dodgy, who obviously worked with Glasner before, so that's a really good signing as well. So I think Palace will be perfectly fine without him. But Bayern also look like they're pushing again for Joao Palhinha. Obviously Palhinha was going to join them last summer on deadline day, but Fulham couldn't get a replacement, so the deal was ended. But Palhinha is pretty much twerking for them now. He has said that, you know, he desperately wants to join them. That's the only club he wants to join. He's not going to leave Fulham for another club. And he really wants that move. It's just about agreeing the fee now with Fulham. I think Bayern want him still. And again, that's a pretty solid move. He is a year older now, which maybe puts him off a little bit, but still is a really, really good defensive midfielder and will shore up that midfield for them. But defensive midfield position has been a little bit of an issue with Kimmich, Goretzka not being the most convincing at points last season. So if they get Palhinha as a good signing, they've already signed Hiroki Ito as a centre-back from Stuttgart, which is an astute signing. They're also pushing for Jonathan Tah, which would be a big dagger blow for Bayer Leverkusen, by the way, because, I mean, I think Tah is like their vice-captain, potentially. And, you know, they just won the Bundesliga and then he leaves to Bayern Munich. Like, God, that's a blow. But that would be a good signing for Bayern as well. Speaking of Leverkusen, they signed Alexei Garcia from Girona for like 15 million, which is an amazing signing, by the way. Like, Garcia was terrific for Girona, and I think he's going to be amazing under Xabi Alonso. Anyway, sticking to Bayern, now because of that, because they signed Ito, because they're probably going to sign Tar, they already have quite a few centre-backs. So one of them's going to have to leave, and the one who's rumoured to leave is De Ligt, and apparently Man United are very, very interested in him. Of course, worked under Eric Ten Hag before, and I don't mind this signing. I don't mind it. I mean, if they can get him for a decent fee, I think they take it, Man United. De Ligt, obviously, when he was at Ajax under Ten Hag, people thought he was going to become the best centre-back in the world because he was superb for Ajax. Hasn't quite worked out like that, but he's still a really, really good centre-back. I think he has his flaws. He's quite slow. He can be a bit rash, clumsy at times, but overall he's still a really good centre-back, and he would be an upgrade on those centre-backs they already have. I think if you pair him next to Lisandro Martinez, that's a pairing that would go really, really well. And as I said, I think if you can get him for a decent fee, if you're Man United, I think you make that happen. Right. Now I want to talk a little bit then about the whole PSR thing and some of the moves that have been happening because of this. Because this has been a real theme of the transfer window so far. Because June the 30th has basically become a new deadline day. Because June the 30th is where like the financial year in terms of PSR, financial fair play reporting ends. So this June the 30th, this year, that's like the cut-off point for the last 3 years. So that means from now on, it's going to be a fresh accounting period for clubs. So any clubs who were going to breach PSR and make a loss of, I think, over 105 million, needed to sell players and make enough profit on the books before June 30th to avoid those breaches. And some of the clubs who were in that trouble were Chelsea, Everton, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Leicester, I think some other clubs as well, and they have all done some sort of dodgy dealings to basically help all of themselves out and get the job done before, and I'm pretty sure most of them have now avoided it. So we'll start with Villa. So Villa, they got Martin in with the Amari Kellyman sort of swap deal. So Villa and Chelsea sort of helped each other out there. I'm gonna do a video later on, like down the line, kind of explaining how this deal works. But to put it simply, both clubs will make a profit from this deal because they're selling academy players. So it kind of helps them both out. And it was, I don't think Chelsea actually wanted Amari Kellyman, but they were like, okay, you're helping us out, we'll help you out with your PSR thing. Now, Villa also did a PSR move with Juventus, and this is a move where you see the Martin one and the Kellyman is like, Villa, you're getting a good player there, and you're not really losing anyone too bad. I understand it. But the Juventus one is where I have a problem with PSR. So Villa sold Douglas Luiz for, I think, a fee of around 40 million to Juventus, and then they in return got Samuel Illing Jr. and Enzo Balangia from Juventus in a sort of swap deal, but works on the books, like Villa make a big profit. Now this is where I have a problem with PSR, because Douglas Luiz, for me, I think Villa have kind of been scammed a little bit here. Like, Illing Jr. is a good player, Enzo Branchia is decent, but that plus 40 million is not really worth it for Villa to lose Douglas Luiz, who was one of their most important, one of their best players last season. And when you consider as well that, I think it was last summer, I think Arsenal were offering about like 60 million for Douglas Luiz. So they could have easily got a better deal than this, but because they were forced to sell someone because of PSR, they had to just get a deal done, and Juventus were willing to do so. So they had to get rid of him, which is a big blow for Villa. Because as I said, Luiz was a very, very important player for them, and I'm not sure how they're going to replace him. They're going to have to go out there and sign somebody of a very good standard in order to replace him. From a Juventus perspective, though, that's a great deal, and they're getting a really good player there who I think under Thiago Motta is going to thrive. So we'll see how he does at Juventus. Douglas Luiz, I look forward to seeing if he can make that step up at the bigger level club. But back to Villa, I mean, they also made another PSR move. They sold Tim Eric Bonham, another academy product, to Everton, and in return, Everton sold their academy product, Lewis Dobbin, to them. Now, Tim Eric Bonham, I think, can actually play a decent role for Everton. I think he's a good player with a decent amount of potential. Lewis Dobbin, I'm not really sure what Villa gain there too much in terms of who's actually going to contribute anything to them. I saw him in moments for Everton look okay, but that's definitely just a profit move, and I really do feel bad for some of these players like him, who are just being involved and sold and bought purely for profit. Like, if you're Dobbin, surely you know that I'm only being bought by Villa just so they can make a profit. Like, that much just hurt your ego so much. But anyway, yeah, Everton, another one of those in trouble, and Villa did a little dodgy deal to get out of it. They also sold Everton and Beck Godfrey to, I think it was Atalanta, right, in Serie A, which is a really good move for him. I think Godfrey is a really, really good player. Just petered off towards the back end of his Everton career, but I think in Serie A, we've seen a lot of English players like Loftus-Cheek, like Tomori go there, rediscover their form, so maybe Godfrey can be the latest to do so. So yeah, Everton and Villa did their dodgy deals. Newcastle, to be fair to them, they had PSR concerns, and I think they've got out of them. But they've got out of them in a less dodgy way. They've not done any of this weird swap deal thing, which is pretty unethical, to say the least, with Everton, Villa and Chelsea. They've just sold their players. So they sold Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest, which, I mean, when I saw this, I was like, alright, cool, whatever. Then I saw the fee, and I was like, what on earth is going on here? Like, Nottingham Forest have been absolutely scammed out of their minds. I think they've paid about 36 million for Elliot Anderson. Are you crazy? Whoever negotiated that deal from a Newcastle perspective, that guy needs a statue. 36 million for Elliot Anderson. That's crazy. Like, Anderson's a good player, shown some good moments, has some potential, but 36 mil, like, what? How have they managed to get that? Like, I mean, of course Nottingham Forest have done that. These guys, guaranteed, he's not even going to play for Nottingham Forest. We have like 500 players. But yeah, that deal plus the Yakuba Minter deal, who was sold to Brighton for 30 million, has helped Newcastle get out of it. The Minter deal, I would be disappointed if I was a Newcastle fan, to be honest, because Minter, I remember when they signed him, he was a really, really good young prospect. They gave him a couple loans, he impressed, and the idea he was going to come back into the first team at one point. And his last move at Feyenoord was really, really good under Arne Slot. He was fantastic, and that was the move where it was like, okay, now he's probably going to come back into the first team. But because of PSR, again, it's annoying. They had to sell someone. they sold Minter, unfortunately, and they sold him to Brighton for around £30 million, which is pretty good money, but I think he's going to do really well at Brighton. That's a really astute signing from Brighton. We all know Brighton get their signings right most of the time. Not a lot of their big signings though, so it'll be interesting with this 30 million splashed how he does. Speaking of Brighton, they've got a new manager, Fabian Hertzler, the St. Pauli manager. He's their man. Interestingly, he's the youngest Premier League manager. He's in his 30s, he's like 31 or something, which is pretty crazy. Absolutely crazy. We'll see how he does. I don't really know too much about him, but as I said, Brighton typically get their managers right, typically get their recruitment right, so I have faith that he'll do well. Their old manager, Dewsbury as well, he's got a new job. He's Marseille manager, which is an odd move, in my opinion, if you're Dewsbury, because Marseille have gone through managers like there's no tomorrow. In the last few years, they literally sack a manager every year. And I think Dewsbury could have aimed for a lot higher job. I think he definitely could have got a bigger job than that. So, maybe it's going to work. Maybe there's like a long-term project guaranteed that it's going to get backed. But, I don't know, that was a bit of a weird move. Anyway, back to the PSR stuff. Leicester also had a bit of trouble. And obviously Chelsea again helped them out there. They bought Dewsbury-Hall off them, and they've also been given, like in a swap deal, some academy graduate who I don't even know the name of. But again, speaking of Leicester, they have a new manager, Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper, the ex-Forest man, is their manager, which I think is a pretty solid appointment. It's a little underwhelming. There was reports of like Potter, etc., which have been a bit more, forward-thinking, long-term. But Steve Cooper, it's a bit of a pragmatic move, but he's got experience of keeping teams in the Premier League. So I think Steve Cooper is it's an okay one. And I'm actually really happy for Cooper that he's got a job back in the Prem, because I think he does deserve another crack at the Prem after what happened at Forest. Leeds United, obviously they're not in the Premier League, so they don't have PSR rules. Anyway, Leeds, I think they had like some sort of financial problems of themselves with EFL, so they had to sell. And Archie Gray, a really, really promising youngster who I know have quite a few Leeds fans, and they were telling me about Archie Gray, and I watched him a couple times, and I was like, wow, this kid, he looks really, really good. But yeah, Archie Gray has looks like he's leaving for around 35 million. Initially Chelsea wanted him, they were interested, but then we went and got Dewsbury-Hall instead. Then Brentford apparently agreed a fee, but then I don't think he wanted to move because Spurs came in for him. And as I'm recording, it looks like Spurs are the ones who are going to get him, which is a pretty decent move. As I said, Archie Gray is a good player, got lots of potential. We'll see how he does in the Premier League. If it is Spurs he does go to, I think that's a pretty good move for Spurs, getting some midfield depth in there. They definitely needed it. Not sure if he'll definitely start, as he is quite young, but it's a good move for him, a good move for Spurs. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there are, other rumours about potential transfers, like Alexander Isak, for example, has been linked with some moves, but I don't think that's going to happen this summer. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia has had a lot of talk about him. I don't think he's leaving. I think more likely Osimhen will leave, but again, I don't think he's leaving either, because I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to see any major transfers this summer, in terms of last summer was 100 million moves. I think a lot of clubs are now more cautious and are not going to do that. Although in the Premier League, potentially, I think we might now see some clubs start to purchase some players, because as I said, the PSR, like the accounting period for the last 3 years, has ended. So we're now in a new period, which may mean, okay, clubs are now going to start spending now, because they don't have to worry, at least until the next 2 years, about what's going to happen, about getting a breach in terms of PSR. So potentially that's going to happen. But in my opinion, I don't think we're going to see too many like big names move this summer window. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I just don't see it happening. Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up the video there. Those are my thoughts on some of the latest news, some of the latest transfers that have been happening in club football. We will be back, of course, with some more Euros content. But if you have enjoyed this video, then please do leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see